Ladies and gents, welcome back to the Dinosaur channel. Today we've got a bit of an obscure video topic to talk about. Dinosaurs that could fly. I know that sounds like a weird sort of mishmash of ideas that don't actually correlate, but did you actually know there were dinosaurs that could fly? And the psychology behind how we assess what is a dinosaur, a non-avian dinosaur, and an avian dinosaur, birds, are actually kind of complicated. So let's go in by starting to do a little speculation. We'll start with Reddit. Okay, this is a little Reddit post I found that said, "Could dinosaurs fly?" It's from about a year ago on r/dinosaurs. Somebody goes, "I loved dinosaurs as a kid, and the interest sparked back as an adult. I remember reading a book that came out in the 90s. It stated that dinosaurs couldn't fly or swim," which is actually probably not true. Could it be outdated or mainly referring to animals from the Pterosauria order for simplicity's sake? Edit, I'm asking about dinosaurs from the Mesozoic period, and if the book from the 1990s ties written for children constrained, outdated, or simplified research. I wish I could source it somehow. I have no idea what became of it or who wrote it, and existed in my mother's home and disappeared. Now, I want to address something real quick before anybody comes for me. I acknowledge that many of you guys watching may be longtime dinosaur fans. You guys love dinosaurs. You know everything about dinosaurs. That's the point of the Dinosaur channel, your home on the internet for all things dinosaur and prehistoric. But we gotta acknowledge this point always, just because the way that media and paleo media for decades has pushed this idea that pterosaurs are dinosaurs, we've gotta address it. So, these animals right here, if you don't know, are not dinosaurs. In no way, shape, or form. They're considered as flying reptiles that went extinct, and they don't have any sort of ancestors that live amongst us today. Similar thing with the reptiles that lived in the ocean, like mosasaurs and plesiosaurs. They're not considered dinosaurs. Same thing as a dodo bird. It is not considered typically a dinosaur. And I know this might sound a little crazy, but the woolly mammoth, saber-toothed tiger, that's all sort of roped into the age of the dinosaurs. You actually would be surprised to know how many people don't know to differentiate, first of all, that these animals lived millions of years apart from each other, but also that they're not all considered dinosaurs. I know, even saber-toothed tiger and the mammoth, it's kind of crazy. But these animals right here, animals like pterodactyl or pteranodon or Quetzalcoatlus, Hadscaropteryx, all these different animals, Tapiara, these are not dinosaurs. They never were dinosaurs. They're a completely different branch of animals. So we just have to acknowledge that right now. So when we're looking for how dinosaurs flew or dinosaurs that could fly, we take these guys off the list because what the most important thing is, they're not dinosaurs. Back to the Reddit post. Suryam said, assuming you don't mean birds, no dinosaurs could fly that we know of. Quite a few could glide though. So this is actually wrong, and the second commenter corrects him, and we'll get right into what he was talking about. Except flight also developed at least twice among dromaeosaurs. It probably wasn't super graceful, but Microraptor would have been capable of some degree of powered flight, and not just simple gliding. So yes, we do know of flying dinosaurs outside of birds, even discounting the fuzzy area of what constitutes a bird. And that's exactly correct. Microraptor, our little raptorian dromaeosaurid friend. Microraptor was tiny. It was a very, very, very small animal. Okay, Planet Dinosaur on BBC actually made a clip of this animal flying around or gliding through the forest as it was hunting. And they get into like the details of exactly how it used this powered flight. Probably they were able to climb high and not just glide. They were able to actually fly. They're actually able to use their legs to power themselves in flight with 4 different wings, probably 2 on the arms and 2 on the legs, which would have been slightly different than how animals fly today. So powered flight is the ability to use muscles to flap your wings and generate lift. The ancestors of modern birds weren't the only ones to achieve this feat. Other groups of dinosaurs also found weird and wonderful ways to stay aloft. So we've got a dinosaur here called Yiki, which kind of looks like it has an adaptation of a bat. One species that might have flown is Yiki, strange wing, whose bizarre aerofoils resembles those of bats. While the surface of a bat's wings feature a membrane stretched across its legs and elongated fingers, Yiki's membranous wings are supported by its arms and a styliform wrist bone unique to Scanzoropterygiid dinosaur family. Don't know how to pronounce that one. So that's one dinosaur that may have potentially flown. And then, of course, we've got the famous Microraptor. Microraptor, the tiny thief, is a dinosaur that was certainly capable of powered flight. It was unusual because it had 4 wings, 2 on its arms and 2 on its legs, with long feathers. While gliding, the crow-sized dinosaur formed an X shape, arms outstretched and legs lightly splayed. It occasionally flapped its wings for lift and brought the rear limbs down as the air brake before landing. The bones of mammals, lizards, and fish have been found in Microraptor's gut, suggesting, like modern raptors, it may have caught food on the wing. Now, listen. Like much paleoscience, it's impossible to 100% trust that. We don't know definitively that Microraptor flew, but there's a high level of indication that Microraptor probably did have an element of powered flight within it. It probably did while gliding, like we established in that BBC video, while climbing up on trees. It would go up high and then maybe jump off, and instead of actually lifting off the ground and properly flying, he was able to stay afloat, stay flying in the air, by continuously flapping to keep himself lifted up, or herself. We don't discriminate here. We've got another dinosaur here called Rhonavis. Another probable flyer is Rhonavis, cloudbird, from a separate branch of Dromaeosaur family tree. This looks like a straight up dragon. I gotta be honest with you. That doesn't look like anything other than a dragon. This was a more conventional looking with 2 wings, but less known about its diet and how it flew. Paleontologists have predicted the flight potential of numerous dinosaurs from aerodynamics based on calculations like wing loading. Besides Microraptor and Rhonavis, several now extinct birds passed those tests, including relatives of Anicornius, a near bird, and a branch-leading modern bird, as well as the Archaeopteryx. Now, that's who we were going to get into next before continuing this adventure. Archaeopteryx. Everybody knows Archaeopteryx. If you don't know who Archaeopteryx is, and somehow I'm the first person to be introducing you to the Archaeopteryx, first, it's my honor, and I'm so happy to be the person to be doing this. But Archaeopteryx, for as long as I've been alive, has been considered the branch or the connection between bird and dinosaur. When I was a kid growing up, birds and dinosaurs weren't necessarily one and the same the way that they are today. So this was always seen, the Archaeopteryx was always seen sort of like that bridge between the two. And you can really see here, this depiction of it really makes it look like some sort of bird-dinosaur hybrid. Little did we know back then, now that we do know, that most birds or most dinosaurs actually probably looked like this. At least most dromaeosaur dinosaurs and a lot of theropod dinosaurs, it probably looked very similar to this. So the Archaeopteryx was actually considered a dinosaur, but also kind of like a bird at the same time. Now, this is going to get even more confusing and obscure as we go down the list and we get deeper into this. So I want you guys to bear with me because I know it might be a little confusing with all the terms. But yes, this animal was also considered to have been able to lift itself off to some degree of powered flight. We don't know exactly what, probably relatively similar to Microraptor in the way that it did. But let's see its Wikipedia and just look up the word flight. Let's see if we have anything here about flight. Exactly. So, paleobiology of flight of the Archaeopteryx. As in the wings of modern birds, the flight feathers of Archaeopteryx were somewhat asymmetrical and the tail feathers were rather broad. This implies that the wings and tail were used for lift generation. But it's unclear whether Archaeopteryx was capable of flapping flight or simply a glider. The lack of bony breastbone suggests that Archaeopteryx was not a very strong flyer, but flight muscles must have attached to the thick, boomerang-shaped wing bones and a plate-like coracoids, or perhaps the cartilaginous sternum. The sideways orientation of the glenoid, or the shoulder, joined between the scapula, coracoid, and humerus, instead of the dorsally angled arrangement found in modern birds, may indicate that Archaeopteryx was unable to lift its wings above its back, a requirement for the upstroke found in modern flapping flight. According to a study by Philip Center in 2006, Archaeopteryx was indeed unable to use its flapping flight as modern birds do, but it may have been able to use downstroke-only flap-assisted gliding technique. However, a more recent study solves this issue by suggesting a different flight stroke configuration for non-avian flying theropods. So this is what I was originally saying, is like, it's impossible to tell, just by looking at the bones of these dinosaurs until we find some hard concrete proof that they didn't or did fly, which is kind of going to be impossible through just their bones. It's kind of impossible to say definitively whether they did or not. But Archaeopteryx is forever going to be sort of like that grandfather dinosaur that was that bridge between very bird-like to very dinosaur-like. It still retains elements of both, which is amazing for us to be able to study. And it really does prove that the evolution of dinosaurs turned into birds. And that's what we get to next. All right, this is probably my favorite part of this discussion because it's where things get very confusing. being a dinosaur nerd, people and my friends sometimes ask me about dinosaurs and questions about them. And I always love having the conversation of convincing somebody that a bird is a dinosaur. And that's by the way that you look at their pelvic structure, the way that you look at the arms splayed out comparative to reptiles, the proof of bones and thickno-fibers on a lot of these dinosaurs' skeletons. And also generally what the concept of shrink wrapping that we've done on dinosaurs and how much more they do look like birds when you plump them up a little bit and add feathers to them. So when we think of birds, okay, in the modern day, most of us just consider these birds. The classification, not to get too nuanced into this discussion, we have the classification of avian and non-avian dinosaurs. Okay, in modern science today, it has generally been accepted that these guys are considered avian dinosaurs. Where the discrepancy and sort of the funny business starts is when we look at ancient birds. Okay, birds from the Pleistocene, from the Cenozoic, from the age after the dinosaurs that existed with early man. We have things like Gastrionorthus, I think is what it's called, and the terror birds. We have things like the moa bird. We have things like ostriches that you can see in this image here. You also, in the same image, you have the dodo bird. Okay, you have animals like the rhea. You have animals like the, wow, I'm forgetting the name of this, the cassowary. So these animals right here would be considered birds, but they're considered non-avian birds, which means, for those of you who don't know, non-avian means not capable of flight. Avian meaning capable of flight. Spending the time in the air, avian. So when we look at animals like this, we consider these non-avian dinosaurs. And in reality, the connection between these animals and dinosaurs, or the dinosaurs we imagine, is so much more real. Because really, if we look at an animal like this, like here you have an animal called an Apiornis, okay, which is this giant looking ostrich-like creature. What's the real difference between this and a dinosaur? Well, in reality, it's the fact that most dinosaurs probably didn't have these beaks. At least not the carnivorous ones that we know of. They had a mouth full of teeth, sharp teeth. And they maybe were covered a little bit less in feathers than these guys are. But the modern remnants of what we have left, i.e. the ostrich, the rhea, the cassowary, the moa bird, and the... Am I getting these right? Sorry, this is the moa bird. What is number 8? Number 8 is Nandu de Darwin. I don't even know what that bird is. Probably extinct. Or 10, the emu of Australia. You see the connection between these guys and what a real dinosaur could have been. And actually those lines start getting blurred. Because what we're looking at in this image are real dinosaurs. These are just dinosaurs that evolved a little later down the path. And when you look at a dinosaur like this, which is the Archaeopteryx, and you realize that this is the connection, the grandfather of this is the connection between this and that. And we'd like to imagine too that there were probably dinosaurs like Gallimimus that probably looked relatively similar to these dinosaurs, just without the beaks. To these birds, sorry, now I'm getting myself confused. We're looking at a reality where the lines are completely blurred between what is a feathered dinosaur, a non-feathered dinosaur, an avian dinosaur, a non-avian dinosaur, and a bird. Those lines are completely blurred, and it's actually very confusing. So in reality, when we think about dinosaurs that were capable of flight, we're really looking at Microraptor and Archaeopteryx. I know it's a bit of like a brain mishmash, this whole like nerding out I've done on the flight of dinosaurs, but we're really looking at Microraptor and Archaeopteryx. Those are really probably the only dinosaurs we know of right now that were capable of full or semi-powered flight. There are other dinosaurs that have been found, tiny little dinosaurs that were caught in amber in Myanmar, and their tails or heads were excavated out, and they were able to actually see what these dinosaurs' feathers looked like. It's probably safe to assume that those tiny little dinosaurs too may have developed either branches down the line that we don't know of, other cousins or dinosaur relatives that could have flown as well. It's easier to assume that these smaller dinosaurs are capable of flight rather than the larger ones. Because I think that idea of high-powered flight on a bigger body wasn't developed until way later, at least not in the bird world. But that's my thoughts a little bit on flying dinosaurs. I hope you guys enjoyed me nerding out about this. If you do want to support the Dinosaur channel, we've got merch down below in the description and right under the video. Check us out, support the channel, get yourself a cool dinosaur design, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye, Dino friends.